The Beethoven Clan, Part 2. In the previous episode, we got to know Beethoven's grandfather, Louis van Beethoven. Beethoven's great example, both musically and alcoholically. But if you follow the male family line of the Van Beethovens, you will see that there is another quality that they all seem to share. They were afraid of women. Huh? Yes, they were, as you will find out in this episode 40 of Beethoven 250 in 52 posts. If you've been following this Beethoven series, you will be surprised to hear me say that Ludwig van Beethoven was afraid of women. Because after all, I told you that he fell in love with almost every girl he gave piano lessons to. True, but this episode is about the women that married themselves into the Beethoven clan. That freaked out quite some generations of Van Beethovens. It all started with Louis van Beethoven, who disapproved of the marriage of his only son, Jean, Beethoven's father. In 1767, when Jean was 27 years old, he met Maria Magdalena Keverich, a young woman, 21 years old at the time, who had had great misfortune in her life. She had lost her father at an early age, she had lost 4 of her 5 brothers and sisters. Her husband, whom she had married when she was 16, had died, as well as their only born child. Now she was ready for a happier chapter in her life, and she thought that that would start when she met Jean. But Louis van Beethoven, Jean's father, Beethoven's grandfather, was against the marriage because in his opinion, Maria Magdalena wasn't of the right class. In reality though, I think he was afraid of her because he thought that her marriage with Jean would undermine his position as the pater familias. But despite Louis' fears and disapproval and refusal to come to the celebrations, Jean and Maria Magdalena married. Was this the start of a happier chapter in Maria Magdalena's life? I'm not sure, because only 3 of her 7 children survived. Ludwig van Beethoven, Caspar Anton Karl and NIKOLAUS Johann. And Jean was a very dominant husband and father himself, just like his own father was. Especially to the very talented, musically extremely talented Ludwig van Beethoven, the oldest son. When Jean would come back from the pub in the middle of the night, he would wake up his little son and force him to play the piano and enjoy his friends with it. And when Ludwig would make too many mistakes or had to cry because he was unable to play something, Jean would lock him up in the cellar or beat him. Well, not exactly the type of education you would expect someone to have today, fortunately, but despite all this terror, Ludwig actually enjoyed playing the piano, practiced really hard and became a star pianist. But the authoritarian examples of his grandfather and father left their marks on Ludwig as well. As the oldest son of Jean, he would be the next in line to become the head of the family. Beethoven himself would never marry, but he would strongly, just like his grandfather, interfere with the marriages of his brothers. In both cases, he disapproved of their choices. Like Johann, for instance, his youngest brother. Johann wanted to marry his housekeeper. Beethoven disapproved of it because she was of the wrong class, again. And he even turned to the local authorities to try to prevent them from marrying. Can you imagine? But the true trouble really started when Caspar married the other brother. Caspar married Johanna, and they had a son, Karl, who was the reason for Beethoven to be unable to write music for a few years. But that we will save for the next episode of Beethoven 250 in 52 posts. Please make a donation to support this series via Tiki or PayPal. You'll find the links below. Many of you have already done so, so thank you very much for that. And subscribe to my channels to stay updated about all my videos, but especially this Beethoven series. See you next week.